Hello, good evening. It's the 2nd of March 2008. It's time, I think, for a ghost story. The North Wales Hospital, now that the living have left those corridors, the roads, the buildings, the wards, now that everybody has withdrawn away from the North Wales Hospital, do those ghosts still walk the corridors? Are they still there? Are they still leaving footprints in the snow? Are they still going through doors that are locked or that do not even exist? Well, I can safely tell you that to this very day, they still are at the North Wales Hospital. Those imprints of the past are still there. And the story I want to tell you today involves, well, there's 3 parts to it really, and I'll start in the middle section of the story, and that is my encounter with the ghost who smoked. And it was when I was on Male 8 ward at night, and I used to come to the nurse's home in the middle of the night for my break, during a break time, to see somebody, a friend of mine. And she would make me a cup of tea. And one night, as I was walking up from the main, up the hill, onto the main road to the nurse's home, I saw in the distance, by the orchard, stood by the orchard, a solitary figure. A figure in a very long coat and with a flat cap on. And he was smoking. I decided, being a brave lad, to go and investigate. Obviously a patient had got out and was having a smoke. And it was my duty, therefore, to offer assistance in case he needed to return to his ward. But as I approached, the figure took a last puff of his cigarette. The cigarette smoke seemed to join with his own form and simply faded away. His own form faded into a mist and then was gone. The apparition was gone. It was an apparition. Well, I had my cup of tea off my lady friend and returned to the ward. And I asked around over a number of nights about this vision, what I had seen. And I did eventually, after a couple of months, come across somebody who had heard a story from many, many years ago of a soldier. It was a soldier who had come to the orchard to wait for his love, a female attendant at what was then the asylum. She would sneak out and she would come and meet him by the orchard. Now, unfortunately, this poor lad, it was many, many years ago. It was during the time of war, and the poor lad went overseas in a draft. He went on the ship over to France with his mates, and unfortunately, like so many of them, he stayed there, he remained there, and is buried there. He lost his life. He lost his life, but his spirit, it remained strong enough to still come and visit that very spot in the hope of meeting his love, his one love. A very sad tale, I'm afraid, very sad. One that must be repeated up and down this great country of ours. Anyway, we fast forward now to the present day, and I decided I was going to have a little look to see if our friend still comes to the orchard. The orchard, of course, no longer exists. It was cut down when the hospital was sold to the first developer, I believe. That's the first thing they did, was to cut down some of the finest apple trees in Denbighshire. A great tragedy. And 3 nights ago, it was during a break in the awful weather we've been having, and the weather's not looking too good tonight, and snow is forecast. It was time for me to go up and see if our friend still visits, is still waiting for his girlfriend. While I waited, I went up in the car and I parked up by Trevelyan, the old doctor's house, what used to be the hospital club, but was built for the doctor all those years ago. I parked up by there and I wandered down in my own coat. It was a very chilly night, but clear. And I stood by the corner at the allotted time, 2:30 at night. 2:30 in the dead of night. And I waited. And I waited for the allotted time. I saw nothing. Maybe that poor boy's soul, maybe his spirit, maybe he's at rest. Maybe he and his love are reunited in death. Maybe his imprint has faded in time like an old photograph fades. Anyway, I turned on my heel and decided enough's enough, back to the car. And as I took my first footstep towards the car, I smelt that sweet smell of a cigarette. So maybe there is something left after all. Well, thanks to everyone for listening to these stories. Naturally all true. The North Wales Hospital, a fantastic place full of characters, great characters, strong characters, characters that survive. Their stories about them survive forever and ever, and they don't go away. And I'm sure that's one of the reasons why the hospital is still visited to this day by people who've gone before us. And who knows, maybe when we've shaken off this mortal coil, we will revisit old haunts of our own. Anyway, thanks for listening, and thanks also for your comments and your ratings. They are appreciated and they keep me going. And a few more stories yet, so I hope you've enjoyed this one. Bye for now.